And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford, Dave Lochran, along with you on this Monday. Nope, it's a Friday morning because we're back from the All-Star break. It felt like a weekend, but it was in fact many more days. As you could tell from our Slack chat, Dave, it got a little out of hand because people miss baseball, but it is back. We have a 15-game MLB slate. How the hell are you doing?
I would not know because I took some time to myself.
Was this the Ocean City week or?
We usually go. We didn't go this year.
Oh, all right.
I won't get into it. You understand. Anyway, no, it's not what you think. I thought we'll talk after the show.
No, there are multiple ways. What I appreciate is after 6 years, you can say that, and there are multiple different avenues that can go down. So that's why I laughed. That is why I laughed.
This time,
Justine, if you're listening, I don't think it was you.
Right, that's the thing. Surprisingly, it wasn't.
Yes. No, I did not think it was.
No, no domestic disputes. No, had a good time. Worked on some of our seasonal football stuff, which we've been pumping out. If you're getting into your drafts for seasonal fantasy football, definitely check it out under the NFL tab. We're putting out a lot of great stuff.
Oh, and listen, if you're playing on draft, just be aware that there are no real locks on entering contests. So if your 2-year-old grabs your cell phone, you may be entered in a best ball contest by the time you get your phone back, which is what happened to me yesterday.
So did you do the draft?
It's a slow draft, so it's still ongoing. I'm in it. I'm gonna try my best, but I got my phone back and I got that little notification of you're on the clock. I didn't sign up for any drafts. She got in there.
Hey, at least it's a slow draft.
Right. Well, that's what I was afraid of. Once I saw it pop up, I was like, I can't do this right now. This isn't happening. But anyway, you're doing well, I hope.
Doing well, man. Doing well. And for real though, check out that content. It's good stuff. It's all free. All of it's free.
And as I hope everyone knows by now, YouTube videos, a lot of content free in front of the paywall, but we do have a ton behind the paywall as well when it comes to DFS offerings over at Awesemo.com. If you want to become a member, use the promo code EARLYBIRD for 50% off. But even more so, over on YouTube, subscribe, like, leave comments. Appreciate that. Same over on iTunes. Just trying to spread the word, get this information and content out to as many people as possible, especially what Dave and I are doing here on the podcast, or on Rendon and EMAC and Adam along the way on the DFS Early Bird, and then the live shows, obviously, the MLB Strategy Show. And then you have the Deeper Dive, and of course, Live Before Lock. I've been saying this, and now it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. NFL is around the corner. So there's a ton more content, not just season long like Dave is talking about, but DFS along the way. So stay tuned for all of that. You'll get plenty of information on how you can sign up for NFL specific, or if you want to jump on board just before NFL begins, that will work as well. For those of you who care, the Houston Rockets traded for Russell Westbrook.
Dude, that was a horrible trade for Houston.
Agree completely. And the Knicks signed Marcus Morris. They've signed 4 power forwards this offseason.
At least he can play the 3. Now, what are they going to do with Knox? But no, I mean, that was a bad trade. I get it. First-round picks that aren't going to be top picks aren't supremely valuable. And whenever you have Harden on your team, you're not going to be finishing in the lot. You're not going to be getting the lottery pick. But it's less about what they gave up and why they'd give anything up. It was like they were just going for a big splash here after not doing anything during the offseason. What I mean by that is the fit with Russell Westbrook and James Harden couldn't be worse.
Yep.
Like, that would be like having Rondo and Ben Simmons on the court at the same time and expecting it to be synergistic.
It'd be like having Harden, Westbrook, and Durant on the same team. Oh, wait. That was...
Yeah. The thing is, in that case, you could still stagger it heavily.
I'm just being a jerk.
Oh, I hear you. But in this case, like with Chris Paul, him and Harden could play well together. But I don't know if this will work. I don't know how this is going to work.
It will be one to watch, and I'm waiting for Paul to be rerouted to either the Lakers or the Pistons. Like, those are the two teams. I think the Lakers are desperate for a point guard. And I think the Pistons are just desperate. So like those are the two landing spots that I feel like Oklahoma City could then turn into another 2 or 3 first-round picks, unprotected or protected, whatever they may be. But we'll have to keep an eye on that as we move forward. Of course, this is a baseball podcast. We're going to get to that now. It is a Coors Day. It is also a day that we get two Grays opposing one another, John Gray versus Sonny Gray, in that Coors game. We'll get to that momentarily. What we'll do here, as we always do on the DFS Early Bird, is we're going to go through pitching as in-depth as we can, and then we'll point you to some stacks that we like, and then point you towards the MLB Strategy Show first thing on Friday morning. But, Dave, let's dive in at the top end of the pool. You get Garrett Cole, Domingo Germán, Dinelson Lamet, and Mike Clevenger. And we'll throw John Gray in there, all 9K and above, Kentamated just below that price point. Lamet, somebody who burst on the scene a bit last year, has had some injuries to deal with this season, had one start before the All-Star break where he seemed pretty fine. He got up to 80 pitches, and we'll keep a monitor on that. Does have the Atlanta Braves at home here in San Diego. Germán against Toronto stands out as a potential high upside strikeout perspective. And then Garrett Cole is in Texas. We know Globe Life this time of year is going to get hot. He's 11-5. Who do you like top end? Or any of these names standing out? Or do you feel like this is a slate where you may see a little bit more of a balanced pitching approach?
Well, it's going to be a brisk 91 degrees at Globe Life Park. And Garrett Cole, I think, is always worth talking about. I mean, as far as strikeouts go, he's got that, last I looked, this is tough because now I'm having trouble remembering. 4 days can do a lot. 4 days can take a lot away from you, man. I'm pretty sure he had the highest K rate in the league. If it wasn't the highest, it was, top 3 for sure. And it's still a Texas team that strikes out a lot. I'm not sure I love him here, though. Domingo Germán against Toronto. Toronto is one of those teams that is going to give you strikeouts against lefties and righties alike. Germán's definitely been a bit pricey, but I don't think it's crazy to consider him as a viable option, just given his strikeout upside. I mean, he's racking up strikeouts at a very high clip, and if he's going to continue to do that, I don't have an issue with it. Now, has he had trouble going deep into starts? Sure, but he's gone 6+ in 7 of his last 10, which really isn't bad. Sorry, 6 of his last 10. 5+ in all but one of those. I mean, you want to get more from that at that price tag, no question. But at the same time, this guy is a very polished strikeout guy. Toronto is going to give you a lot of strikeouts. So there are reasons to have some love for Germán. Look, as far as upside goes, he's not close to Garrett Cole, but he's also not very close in price point either. And the Blue Jays have the 7th highest K rate in the league versus righties. The Rangers, though, have the 4th. So I don't think we count Garrett Cole out just because he's at a bad park. I mean, this guy's pitched at bad parks and done well. Look, Cincinnati, 6 one-run innings, pretty solid there. A lot of these spots. 5 scoreless against the Red Sox. Granted, it was in Fenway, and while he only had 7 Ks, you get the point. He can limit runs and get strikeouts. You mentioned Lamet. I don't get this price tag at all, man.
Me either. Yep.
I really don't. I mean, number one, how many pitches are we going to see him throw? Number two, the Braves have not the lowest K rate, but it's still 19th in the league against righties. They're not a high K team. Dinelson Lamet is – the big thing here is how many righties are going to be in the lineup, because his splits against lefties and righties are dramatic from what we've seen. If you're going to get a heavy righty lineup, which is possible, if you get 6 righties in this lineup, I don't think it's crazy, but you need to get him on sites where, and I haven't looked at FanDuel or Yahoo pricing yet, but just a preliminary look. If he's cheap on one of those, I'm not opposed to it. And then let's move down one here, because I'm not paying $9K for John Gray. I don't care who it's against, not at Coors. And I love the guy. Really, really encouraging bounce back start from Mike Clevenger after 2 brutal appearances since being activated from the DL. The problem is, this is a Minnesota team that doesn't really give you much wiggle room if you're not on, right? They strike out in the bottom half of baseball. Their WRC plus against right-handed pitching is the highest in the league. It's tied with the Angels and Astros. 233 isolated slugging is tops in the entire league. And they're 350 weighted on base average. Could you take a guess? I'll tell you, it's second behind only the Red Sox. I mean, this is a scary team, dude. A scary team from top to bottom, especially when you've got guys like Buxton actually playing well. I can't go there, especially given the lack of strikeouts. So at 9K and above, those are pretty much the guys. It's not loaded here, but it's definitely not without talent. And I think lineups could play a big role in this as well.
It's always interesting. We talk at the beginning of the season about the number ones who are sort of in that rotation, and we get them on every slate coming out of the All-Star break, being all those number ones, or a lot of those number ones are at the All-Star game. We get this weird smattering of talent, and DK clearly has their pricing pretty tight when it comes to pitching on the year. So you get a Domingo Germán at 10-1, a Lamet at 98, a John Gray at 9K, even at Coors Field. So it makes sense to – I like Clevenger here. I do think there's a bit of upside, though, to your point, Minnesota has the ability to get to him quickly. I don't foresee myself getting to Garrett Cole at 11.5, though the upside is clear against a Texas team, as you pointed out over the course of this podcast, has a bit of a problem when it comes to striking out. I would say I may find my way to cheaper price points on pitchers and just hope to get the bats right. When we look at Kenta Maeda at 8.9 at against Boston, not going to go there. Sonny Gray in Coors. I am a Sonny Gray truther. I cannot make that jump.
So hold on a second, though.
Yeah.
Sonny Gray on Yahoo's $33.
Okay.
To me, that's actually not crazy at all. He's basically half the price of Garrett Cole. He is right around the same price as Dallas Keuchel. He's cheaper than Keuchel. He's cheaper than Leake. He's way cheaper than Jason Vargas, way cheaper than John Gray, Danny Duffy, Dylan Bundy, Eduardo Rodriguez, way $10 cheaper than Mike Fiers. Explain that to me. Yanni Chirinos is 45. Sonny Gray's 33. So, you get the point there. The big thing, though, is how many lefties do we get in this Rockies lineup? My guess is they'll load it with lefties. Sonny Gray's got a 30+% K rate against them this season. He's been phenomenal against opposite-handed hitters.
Mm-hmm.
At 33 on Yahoo, I actually think that he is 100% viable on Yahoo at that price point. It's really inexpensive. So I'm not against it. On FanDuel, Sonny Gray's 6,800.
Mm-hmm.
So it appears as though DraftKings has not factored Park into this whatsoever, which is strange. Given Gray and Gray's price points, Yahoo and FanDuel have heavily factored in Ballpark. So yeah, it's actually not the wildest of ideas to think, or not unfeasible to think, that Sonny Gray could have a good start even if it's at Coors Field. Yeah, it's super risky. I'm not denying that, of course. But he's been very, very good this year, and those prices are too cheap. I don't really think venue matters if they're that cheap if you're playing tournaments.
Well, you come to the point of who do you fear in the Rockies lineup? You fear Arenado, you fear Story, and you fear Blackmon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like those are the three names that I think everyone would go to pretty quickly. And
one of them strikes out a lot.
One of them strikes out a lot, and two of them against righties are good hitters, but not the fearsome ones there against lefties.
Right.
I've loved Blackmon against lefties over the years, but he's pretty good against righties. So you put Blackmon at the top of the lineup. I hear you. I'm somebody who probably will stay away from Coors, but I think Gray, from an analysis standpoint, I'm sure Adam will have something to say about this. Many of the Awesemo subscribers are waiting with bated breath to hear what Adam has to say about Sonny Gray here. But I think what you said is legitimate. I think there's some upside here, especially on sites where he's much cheaper than where he is at DraftKings. What I find intriguing, Dave, before we move on, because of his price point on DraftKings, ownership should be down. Do you see enough upside at reduced ownership to give Gray a look on DraftKings?
So that's the tough part. I think it would come down to who's priced around him. And, Mike Fiers has 4 or fewer strikeouts in 8 of his last 9 starts. I don't care who he's facing. You're not getting that upside there unless he's going with the no-hitter again. But I'm going to go ahead and say that doesn't happen.
Right.
Caleb Smith is an interesting one. Big fan. And he did make a start, right? He made a start right before the All-Star break.
Correct, yeah.
So that was nice to see. He threw 95 pitches, and I like to see that. Look, Caleb Smith gets a ton of Ks. And the Mets aren't a terrible team, but they're also not the most fearsome squad either. Now, to be fair, against lefties, they have put up pretty decent numbers this season, and I'm not going to take that away from them. But I also think that, with their top 10, they have a top 10K rate. That's important. They have a very solid WRC plus, a high ISO, a high WOBA, all of that stuff. But they strike out at a top 10 clip. So if it's Caleb Smith in Miami in a tough matchup, or Sonny Gray at Coors in a tough matchup at essentially the same price, I'm going to go Caleb Smith here for sure. But, when you're looking at pricing discrepancies everywhere else, Caleb Smith is $8K on FanDuel, which is still very reasonable, but he's still, $1,200 more expensive, and then 45 on Yahoo. So big discrepancy or big disparity there. Not so much on DraftKings. I think Caleb Smith at 86 on DraftKings is actually underpriced.
All right, let's keep rolling on here. We get into Chirinos, Keuchel, Wainwright, Rodriguez against the Dodgers in Fenway, Robbie Ray in St. Louis, Mike Leake against the Angels in Anaheim, Vargas, Gibson. So we sort of run through some names that have been a little enigmatic when it comes to DFS on the year. The likes of Jason Vargas, I've targeted him more than a few times on the year. And have had bad results. He's had a very solid season. He's been able to really mitigate runs, mitigate power, mitigate contact, but somebody that I continue to have struggles projecting against and understanding really where the upside is. What do you like in this mid-tier? Are there names that you feel comfortable with this early on, or who will you be further looking at when it comes to running the deep dive?
Yeah, all right. So just out of the gate, Chirinos has a really good matchup, but it's really difficult for me to see the value there at his price pretty much anywhere, right? It's not like I worry much about the run prevention standpoint of this, but more so just the idea that what type of price are you paying for a guy who is and has been good, but isn't going to get you the strikeouts. Similarly, Mike Fiers is the same way. When you're looking at a 15-game slate with a ton of good or at least talented pitchers that can get strikeouts, it's very difficult for me to get to Chirinos with the numbers that he has. 20.1% or 20.9% K rate. Is it a 14-gamer? I think we got Chicago in I think we're in Chicago.
Let me double check here. It is, in fact, a 13-game slate.
Oh, it's only 13.
Pittsburgh and Chicago is a 220, and then the 13 games at night. I don't know who's off for Friday. It must be no.
I don't think anyone's off.
I will double check that. We've done this before.
Just curious, yeah, because the schedule, when I looked earlier in the day, said 15 games, but I forgot to check the times of them. Let's see. So there's a 220 and Phillies Nationals 605.
There you have it.
That'll do it. All right, cool. So trim a little of that fat.
And Strasburg Pavetta would have been fun to talk about, but
it actually would have been pretty good. Called plus swinging strike rate for Chirinos though is a paltry 26.5%. The only guys on this slate that have been worse are Keuchel 21.7. That's really bad, by the way. I know he's only made a few starts. Sean Anderson. Is Taylor Cole on this slate? I think he is.
Yes, for the Angels, yeah.
Yeah, and Aaron Sanchez. So he's not in great company there whatsoever. The matchup with Baltimore just isn't going to be enough to get it done. Honestly, I'd rather come down. And by the way, Dallas Keuchel's price point is absurd too. Putting him above 8K to me makes no sense. Go ahead and look at that start against Miami. Go ahead and look at that start against Philly. I think the guy's been getting lucky. And even if he isn't, he's just missing no bats. 7% swinging strikes, man. 21% called plus swinging. Those are important numbers, and both of them have been brutal. One that interests me, though, because of this price point, has got to be Robbie Ray. You're getting him at a dirt cheap price.
Yep.
I get that the Cardinals are a pretty decent team against lefties. Totally understood. They can load it with righties. Fine. I get that. But sub 8K Robbie Ray, to me, away from Chase Field, that's crazy, man. Like, I'd be shocked if he doesn't have some ownership here. I mean, just look over the numbers, and some of the pricing here is very, very, very surprising to me, and I don't necessarily understand it, but what can you do? So where are we here? Let me pull this up.
Robbie Ray at 7,900 on DK with Mike Leake and Eduardo Rodriguez in the same price range.
So Robbie Ray has a 13.7% swinging strike rate. That's an elite number for sure. Above him would be Clevenger, who hasn't pitched nearly as much, Cole, Caleb Smith, who also has been hurt, Maeda, and Herman. So we were like top 5 or 6 there. And then called plus swinging strike rate, 31.5%, also spectacular, up in that top 6 range. And then what about his K rate? Because that's what we care about most, right? None of that's worth anything if you're not getting strikeouts. Well, Robbie Ray's striking batters out above 30% this year. Clevenger, Cole, and Smith are the only ones above him. So, you tell me, man. That price at a guy who has top 5, top 6 stuff on a 13-game slate is really, really difficult to ignore when you know that he's got double-digit strikeout upside. And another big thing about Robbie Ray is this guy had struggled to go deep into games for so long, and maybe it'll haunt him again sometime in the near future. But these are his innings pitched over his last 7 games: 7, 6 2/3, 6, 6, 6 1/3, 4. It was just a rough one, and 6. So he's gotten 6+ in 6 of his last 7. I love seeing that. I love seeing the high strikeout totals. 7,900, despite the tough matchup, is insane.
I want to run by over on FanDuel. You have 4 players all at 6,800. Vargas, Gray, meaning Sonny. So Jason Vargas, Sonny Gray, Kenta Maeda, Yanni Chirinos. Any of those 4 stand out of that 4 grouping? I know we don't talk a ton on FanDuel, but those 4, all the same price point. Which one is your favorite of that group?
Yeah, Gray's interesting. Chirinos at that price, I'm not totally opposed to. Who are the other ones? Vargas and who else?
And Kenta Maeda is 6,800 against the Red Sox in Boston.
Oh, that's tough. I'd probably fade Kenta Maeda there. I don't see any strikeouts being in that lineup.
So let's continue on DK. We'll get through the pitching. We'll talk a couple of stacks and we'll be done. Danny Duffy and, let's go in order. Kyle Gibson is 7,600 against Cleveland.
No, I'm just telling you up front. I like Kyle Gibson, but not in that matchup.
Dylan Bundy is against Baltimore. Is pitching for Baltimore in Baltimore against Tampa Bay at 7,200. And then Danny Duffy gets Detroit at 6,800. Felix Pena, expected to be the long reliever for the Angels, is at 6,700. And then we had Chase Anderson at 6,300. So Gibson, Bundy, Duffy, Pena, Anderson. I would have to say that Duffy, at least, I think, may have some ownership here. Matchup with Detroit. Duffy has some K upside. We know that there's a bit to like here. The Detroit bats interest me as well on the other side. If Duffy were to blow up, I think you'll have some cheap right-handed power bats against Duffy. Any interest in Duffy or any of the other names I mentioned here in this price range?
Yeah, no, you have to have some interest in Duffy. I mean, top 7 K rate for the Tigers versus lefties, sub 100 WRC plus, actually 87 WRC plus. Let me rephrase that because it's a pretty significant difference. That ranks 4th worst in the entire league. But they're isolated slugging too. You'd think it would be better with the amount of righties they can jam in that lineup. Only the Marlins and Royals have been worse than them this season, while only the Marlins, Royals, and I believe Pirates have been worse than them when it comes to weighted on base average. So, I mean, it's a bad team. They strike out a lot. They walk at or below a league average clip. They don't have There's just nothing here that really scares you, even with all of the righties in the lineup. At Duffy's price, I think he's totally viable. Bundy's a decent tournament option, I guess. He is one of the most hit or miss, boom or bust pitchers in the league. You very rarely have any idea what you're going to get out of him. And the Rays are striking out right in the middle of the road against righties this season, whereas you're seeing a lot more strikeouts for the Rays against lefties. I think you're better off going Duffy over Bundy unless you're just trying to be way different than the field. Aside from that, one other team that we could throw out there just because of how bad they've become after the trades and such, Felix Pena. I wish I knew how many innings he was going to throw, how many pitches he'd be allowed to throw. Because if he threw 90, 95 pitches, it was allowed to, I'd have a lot of interest in him. The problem is it's really hard to go there when you know the guys that are priced around them that are also in good spots aren't going to be on a short lease like he is.
All right, let's continue on here as we try to power through the pitching options. Anybody sub, let's say, 6,500. Pena is just above, but Chase Anderson on down through Aaron Sanchez against the Yankees, Anderson against Milwaukee in Milwaukee, Norris gets Kansas City, Taylor Cole is your Angels opener most likely, and then you have Pena as your long reliever, and then Jesse Chavez should be your pitcher for the Texas Rangers. Doesn't seem like a ton of options there, but anybody at least worth highlighting before we move on to top stacks?
I don't think Anderson's crazy, but I also don't think he's necessary. That's a tough guy to get to. No, I will not be playing Aaron Sanchez in Yankee Stadium. That's a hard pass. Sean Anderson. I was producing the golf show the other day, and I heard Ben say, yeah, that's a no, dog. And it stuck with me. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. What was his name? Randy Jackson?
Yeah, Randy Jackson from
I thought it was the greatest thing hearing Ben say that. But
what's the name of that show? American Idol. Sorry. That took me too long to get to. Sorry.
But to phrase my man Ben Rasa, that's a no, dog. On Ivan Nova, on Sanchez, on Sean Anderson. By the way, Milwaukee bats here, pretty interesting. No, I don't think there's anywhere you go. Cole's going to open Chavez against Houston. Now, once you get this far down, you're in no man's land.
Yeah, so reminder, Dave hit on some FanDuel and some Yahoo prices earlier. Lamet is $5,600 on FanDuel, as talked about. I also enjoy that we have on the same slate, we have Gray v. Gray, and then we have two Andersons. So we have Gray and Anderson both represented twice. Make sure you're picking the one you want.
Anderson versus Anderson. You're right.
Yeah. So you get two namesakes. Well, they're not namesakes. That's the wrong word. But two of the same last name. So you have Chase versus Sean and Sonny versus John as we talk about San Francisco, Milwaukee, and Colorado and Cincinnati.
We need a more unique one. We need like a Ponce de Leon versus Ponce de Leon.
I dig it.
Then we'd be in business.
A Lochran v. Lochran. I mean, come on.
That would be something.
That's a nice law firm waiting to happen. Lochran, E. Lochran.
It's not. Never mind.
That's for a different podcast. Whatever you're going to say. Let's talk top stacks, and then we will be done. You already mentioned, I agree, Milwaukee, I think, stands out. Again, Sean Anderson. That seems to have a bit of upside on a site like DraftKings. Clearly, we do have Coors Field here with Gray v. Gray. I don't know that I will go full board on Coors because I do think John Gray and Sonny Gray are both good pitchers that do have a bit of upside here. Not talking 150 lineups, talking single entry or three max. But what do you got from top stacks? Who are some of the teams you are most interested here early on before you write the deep dive?
Yeah, so I'd mentioned Milwaukee against Anderson. I mean, I think this ends up being a pretty difficult spot for him.
Yep.
At Miller Park. It's a really tough place to pitch. There's just no question. It's a difficult place. And I mean, my assumption is that Milwaukee's definitely let me down a good amount. Milwaukee's definitely let me down a little bit recently, but I think we could probably get them back on track in this spot. I mean, it is a really, really favorable spot There's nothing about Anderson that should scare anybody. You got a righty coming into Miller Park. I don't see how he gets out of this one. You're talking about a Milwaukee team that definitely has strikeouts. They will strike out, but they've just got so much power, so much damn power. And I am more than happily take as many Milwaukee bats as possible. Now, you're going to have to pay for them. That's been the case. So when they let you down, it certainly feels even worse. But that's got to be one of my favorite teams here. Let's take a look at the totals before we head out. So the highest totals right now, we don't have one for
what is the Brewers, because it's a 9.5 over under with Milwaukee minus 180.
5-6.
5-6. Okay,
it's the fourth highest on the slate.
Okay,
who do you think has the highest total?
Boston.
Yankees against Aaron Sanchez.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I forgot Sanchez was
6.7. Then Colorado 6.3 against Sonny Gray. I actually don't love that. I mean, I really don't. Cincinnati 5.9 against John Gray. I feel like I probably like Cincinnati more than.
Listen, and this is I know it's not a sports talk show, but if ever there was evidence that we enjoyed offense as spectators, the over-unders in Major League Baseball, the NFL, and the NBA over the past 5 years, I think should be more than enough evidence that defense may win championships, but
no question.
It does not win the heart and minds of your fans.
Shit, I don't even know if it wins championships anymore.
That's very true.
Yeah. But Milwaukee up there at 5-6, really like them. The Yankees against Sanchez, kind of a no-brainer. Oakland against Ivan Nova has a 5.5 total in Oakland, which is kind of interesting. Not something I would necessarily expect to see. And then one that I really like here, Mike Leake has done a decent job of run prevention, but he's also given up a shit ton of home runs, 23 home runs on the season, multiple home runs in what feels like every other game. That's huge, right? That's huge. Angel Stadium isn't as pitcher friendly as it once was. When you've given up 23 home runs in 114 innings, I don't care if you've had games where you prevent runs either. There's so much power in this Angels team. They've crushed righties all season long, and their total is not so high that they're just going to be eaten up by everybody. 5.4 totals, like the 8th, 9th highest on this slate.
My random thought of the day is that Michael Brantley will home run on this slate. Jesse Chavez, the opposing pitcher, bullpen. I think Brantley gives you at least one home run, if not two. So 4,700, not exactly cheap over there on DraftKings, but the All-Star this year, I think, has a ton of upside. The Yankees against Sanchez was not, I forgot Sanchez was pitching against the Yankees, but 6.7 is such an astronomical number, but this Yankee lineup can do it. Any further thoughts on this slate before we say so long?
No, I think that'll do it. I'll just throw this out there, by the way. Lowest total on the slate goes to the New York Mets at 3.7 against Caleb Smith.
Oh, well, keep that in mind as you're doing your research. Dave will do a ton of that for you Osmo subs. If you want to be a sub, it's early bird. One word is the promo code to get you 50% off, and that gets you in at that price point, and then you continue on from there. We do have NFL coming around the corner. If you are a sub, you get access to Slack chat, and then you get access to the lineup builder, to projections, to ownership projections, and so much more over there at Osmo.com. Find Dave on Twitter at Lofty_D, LOUGHY_D. Find me at Dan Strafford if you so choose, and it's Osmo_com. Dave and I will be back with you. No, that's a lie. On Saturday morning, you get EMAC, you get Adam, and then on Monday morning, you get EMAC and Chris Randone. You get me and Adam Tuesday morning, then Dave and myself Wednesday morning. So a little bit of a programming note there as I reacclimate myself to the fact that tomorrow is, in fact, Friday. So with that said, we wish you the best of luck, and we'll check you back here right on the DFS Early Bird presented by Osmo.com.